This lesson is the first touching upon in-game objects. We're going to set up a reward crate and bring it into the gameplay. First, we're going to create a hover effect and make the crate hovering in air, and then we're going to set the functionality when it gets collected. I've used this sprite sheet called crates to generate a new game object called reward. As you can see here, we can zoom in and it's just a crate, and if we go into the animation tab and press play, you'll see the crate change its color. The idea here is to have one color per attribute, so it will be sort of a randomized reward once you collect the crate. You can also see we got our sprite render, we have our crate script connected to this one, and we also got a box collider with the is trigger set or checked. So before we do anything, I'm just going to address one thing here in player object. We're going to change the tag from untagged to player to be able to detect collision with the reward. So we're all set there on stage, and we just need to go into the script and start coding. First, we're going to create a hover effect. So we have a couple of values here, a maximum value, a minimum value, and a direction. This is to set a threshold for the crate so it can move up and down, but not that big. So I'm going to set the maximum value here first, and it will be the same position, but adding 0.5 to it. So we're just going to do this dot transform dot position and add 0.5, and the minimum value will be just 1.0 less than the maximum value. So I'm just gonna subtract 1.0, and we have our thresholds up and running. So we're gonna set the crate in motion. So we're gonna change the position here. I'm doing this dot transform dot position and creating a new vector 2. We're gonna keep the same x value here, so we're just gonna continue to do the transform dot position dot x and keep it the same as it is, but we're gonna change the transform position y. So that one we're gonna add at the direction and multiply the direction by 0.05. And the direction can be 1 or -1, depending if it's going upward or downwards. So all we now have to do is to check if the position is greater or less than our maximum and minimum value. So I'm going to do this dot transform dot position and see if the y position are bigger than our max value. And if it is, then we're going to move downwards. So we're going to change the direction to -1. And I can see up here, I forgot to add the y value there. So let's go ahead and do it. Before we do the same thing for the minimum value here, or the same thing, but we're going to check if it's less than our minimum value. So if y is less than min, we want it to move upwards, so we're going to change the direction to 1. There we go. Let's get back to the stage here. Click the game tab. You can zoom this one out, and we're going to press play. And you'll see the crate hovering in air. But as you can see, when I try to touch it or collect it, nothing happened since we don't have any collision there. It couldn't, but we're going to address that now. So we're going to do a function here within the onTrigger enter 2D. And what we want to do here is actually to see if the game tag or the collider is a player. But first we need to set the create render reference here, so it's also actually reference to a script. So let's do this transform, and we're going to pull out the get component here. And set that one to sprite render. So now we can use that reference to get the actual sprite of the crate, or the sprite in use of the crate. But first we're going to address the collision game object tag here. So if the call.gameObject.tag, if that one equals player, then we know the player has collected the reward. So we're going to do a switch case here to see which of the 3 crates are in use by doing switch and check the crate render .sprite.name. So case, this is crate _0. It will be the blue one, the first one. And let's add the functionality here that if the player collects the blue one, the game speed will decrease. We can do that by accessing the level creator and set the game speed to, well, let's have it 1.0 slower. So we're going to find that one first. We do it by game object find, and that script is connected to the main camera, so just find the main camera and get component level creator. And that one has a value called game speed, and we're going to decrease it by 1.0 by doing minus equals 1.0 and do it a float. So we can break now, and we need to set a case for the red one. That'll be crate _1. Sorry, it will be crates with an S in the end. And I think we're going to do a bit of a jumping motion here. We're going to do the player jump up or take a huge leap when collecting the red one. So maybe it's not that big of a reward, but it will mix stuff up during gameplay. And I'm going to find the player here and attach a couple of stuff to the rigid body. It will be the rigid body 2D, or we're just gonna apply force here, I think. So let's do a vector up force, and we're gonna create a huge leap here. So let's multiply it by 6,000. Then we can break it and do a last one here. The crates _3. And I think we're just going to add a couple of more points to the board when collect this one. And we're going to address the score system later. So I'm just going to do a reminder here, add the score, and we'll handle it in another session. There you go. Our switch case is finished. And the only thing we need to do now is to move the collected crate out of the scene to create the effect that it's collected. So I'm going to change the position here to a new vector 2. And I think all we need to do here is just to offset it by a huge number, so we can move it away from stage. So I'm just going to keep the same X value, and let's offset the Y value. And I think 30 will be enough. 30.0. There you go. Let's move back to stage and press play. I'm gonna collect it. Oh, it was a red one. It took a huge leap, and then it's moving on. So it seems to work fine. And I'm just gonna pause there. So the crate is not respawning, and we're gonna handle that in another lesson. So for the next lesson, we're gonna continue with our crate, and we're gonna build a respawn functionality.